let's bring up the item and Mr. Neb to do his presentation. Mr. Neb?
Mr. Mayor, that's item 33.
All right, let's go to item number 33.
Motion to bring that item up with this item, Mayor.
Motion, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Good evening, Mayor,
Evening.
members of the City Council. Today's presentation is on the second reading of the proposed bridge toll rate ordinance. Since the first reading, staff has continued evaluating the financial assumptions supporting the proposal while meeting with members of the international trade community, the Port of Entry Advisory Committee, and individual members of the City Council. Working with the City Attorney's Office, we have also incorporated several administrative clarifications into the ordinance that strengthen its long-term administration without changing its overall purpose or direction. Today, we are presenting what staff believes is a balanced recommendation that maintains the financial sustainability of the bridge system while responding to many of the concerns raised throughout this process. Today's presentation has 5 objectives. First, explain the refinements made since the first reading. Second, review the updated implementation schedule. Third, discuss the financial assumptions supporting those refinements. Fourth, review the administrative clarifications incorporated into the ordinance. And then finally, present the staff's recommendation for adoption. Before discussing today's recommendation, I wanted to share with you the importance to remember why this discussion began and why we're here today. Commercial toll rates have not been comprehensively adjusted since 2017. Non-commercial rates have remained unchanged since 2013. During that same period, inflation, labor costs, maintenance expenses, technology investments, public safety, debt service, insurance, and construction costs have all increased substantially. While the city delayed toll adjustments in an effort to minimize its impacts on our bridge users, the purchasing power of our bridge system revenues has steadily declined. The bridge toll rate study confirmed that action is necessary if we intend to maintain a financially sustainable bridge system. Since the first reading, staff revisited several planning assumptions to determine whether the implementation schedule could be refined while continuing to meet the financial needs of the bridge system. The most significant change was reducing the implementation schedule from a 5-year proposal to a 3-year proposal. Rather than attempting to establish toll rates based upon long-range projections, staff focused this recommendation on the bridge system's current and reasonably foreseeable financial needs. Future capital projects should be evaluated as they mature rather than relying on assumptions made several years in advance. This provides future city councils greater flexibility while still allowing the bridge system to remain financially sustainable. Staff was able to moderate the proposal through 3 primary planning assumptions. First, we adjusted the anticipated schedule for the World Trade Bridge expansion by approximately 6 months. Rather than beginning construction immediately, the revised financial plan assumes bids will be advertised in January, with construction beginning approximately 6 months later. This provides additional financial flexibility while keeping the project on track. Second, staff accepted a longer recovery period for the bridge system's reserves and capital improvement fund. Rather than restoring those balances over approximately 5 years, the revised financial plan extends that recovery to approximately 8 to 10 years. This allows us to moderate the proposed toll adjustments while continuing to meet the bridge system's operational, maintenance, debt service, and current capital obligations. Finally, our financial analysis remains intentionally conservative. The proposal does not assume future growth. in bridge crossings or commercial activity. While staff expects continued growth in international trade, those future revenues were not included in developing our initial assumptions. Within this recommendation, we are saying, let's give this chance to see if that future growth will actually help offset the need for future increases. And so we placed that into these projections. I do want to address why percentages don't equal toll rates. Our financial analysis begins with looking at percentage basis. The challenge we have is, though, that once you've determined where you want to kind of be with that, bridge tolls cannot practically be implemented using exact percentage calculations. And that means, and what I'm trying to say here is that toll rates must be established at practical 25-cent increments so that there is the cash handling that happens at the bridge. If we just use the percentage base, you could end up with a toll rate of $10.81. And so that makes it very difficult for our users to use the bridge. So that's why we start with the percentage base, but then you have to round up to that closest 25-cent range in order to make it so that the cash handling is there. So consequently, the financial analysis established the funding requirement, and then we convert it over to the toll schedule for that. I know that there was a conversation within the industry about trying to keep it to percentages, and we kept it very close to those percentages, Mayor, that was discussed, but we had to adjust accordingly for that. And that's why the final percentages may vary slightly from the original financial model while still accomplishing the same financial obligations. Following the additional financial analysis and continued discussions with the members of the international trade community, the Port of Entry Advisory Committee, and the individual members of the City Council, staff further refined the proposed implementation schedule. You can see that here under the recommendation before you today. The phased implementation begins on January 1, 2027. We've removed the September 26 portion, and we started on January 2027. It provides additional time for the bridge users while continuing to maintain the long-term sustainability of the bridge system. Staff was able to make this adjustment by extending the reserve recovery period, adjusting the anticipated timing of the World Trade Bridge expansion, and continuing to use conservative revenue projections that do not assume those bridge crossings. Staff also reduced the implementation schedule from 5 years to 3 years. We tighten that up, and then we implement the CPIW in the 4th year and beyond at 4%. And it's the CPIW or 4% COLA, whichever is greater in each one of those years. Following the completion of that, once the CPIs are in place, this approach provides greater predictability, avoids another prolonged period without a comprehensive rate review, and establishes a framework for measured future adjustments. I want to go into the administrative clarifications because I think this is the thing that sets our ordinance apart from every other rate ordinance out there. Working with the City Attorney's Office, staff incorporated several administrative clarifications into the ordinance presented at first reading. I think it needed to be in writing and it needed to be placed in the ordinance in order to show the seriousness of what each one of these mean. These clarifications do not change the ordinance's purpose or the proposed rate schedule. Instead, they strengthen the long-term governance of the bridge system by establishing policies for financial stewardship, the administrative rounding, the annual inflationary adjustments, the pilot programs, the annual bridge system performance report, extraordinary economic conditions, and the 5-year bridge toll rate studies.
Mr. Knapp, for a really quick question, Mayor.
Yeah.
For the small trucking business industries, assuming it's greater, can you just explain what the CPI is?
Yes, sir. It's the Consumer Price Index. And so every year when the federal government puts out for Social Security or anything, they do an inflationary rate. But the Consumer Price Index, and we utilize the CPIW, which has very similar characteristics to what the trucking industry has. And so the CPI It'll establish that the cost of goods has changed from one year to the next. And so you'll see a CPIW of a certain percentage every year. It does convert over to a certain level of the inflation rate. That's where you'll see the CPIW kind of works across that. But it's a consumer price index, which means that the cost of goods have changed from this price to this price. And then they convert it over into an inflationary side for those of us that are users, because we'll see an inflationary increase within there. And so as you see how they work that, that's what it is.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the first one in here, this is a significant clarification because the financial stewardship policy, this ordinance recognizes that the city's first obligation is maintaining and preserving the infrastructure the citizens of Laredo already own. And it covers operations, maintenance, public safety, technology, debt service, reserve requirements, and these responsibilities come before the future expansion. We have to make sure that our bridge remains solvent and operational. It is a very important asset to the city. Expansion remains important, but it should never compromise the operational integrity or financial sustainability of the existing bridge system. The annual bridge system performance report, we do a performance report on an annual basis on almost every one of our departments, but what I'm saying here within the ordinance now is that we want to look at it in more depth, more comprehensive look into this. We want to look at the financial condition. We want to look at the operational performance. We want to talk about the trade trends and the competitiveness and the long-term sustainability of ours. We believe that these metrics will allow for future councils to evaluate the overall health and performance of the bridge system using current information rather than just the assumptions. We've talked a little bit about this in the mayor's statements as well too, the extraordinary economic conditions that face the industry and face our bridges. So another recommendation that we received throughout the entire process was ensuring flexibility if the economic conditions change. Rather than creating automatic triggers or mandatory thresholds, the ordinance establishes an objective review process. The annual bridge system performance report provides the financial, operational, and economic information that council may consider when evaluating future scheduled adjustments. If tariffs, changes to the USMCA, border operations, supply chain disruptions, or other extraordinary events materially affect international trade, the council retains the authority to postpone, suspend, or modify future scheduled adjustments. You have that ability within there. What we're establishing within this ordinance is that we will have a conversation about this at least every year, if not more. I would hope that the Port of Entry takes this on as a regular basis as well too, to keep looking at that. And I think the industry does a pretty good job of that. They tell us exactly what's happening for them. But the ordinance establishes the metrics through an annual review process, not necessarily automatic mandates, because we want to be able to move fluidly through all of this as we're walking through it. What we heard throughout the process, staff carefully considered the comments received from the International Trade Committee and everybody, the members of City Council. While not every recommendation could be incorporated, many of those conversations strengthened the final ordinance as presented. Staff delayed implementation until January 27. We reduced the implementation schedule from 5 years to 3 years. We added the annual performance reporting. We added flexibility for the extraordinary economic conditions, added the operational pilot programs. And Mayor, this goes into the incentive base about having trucks cross at a different time of day rather than at the time when it compacts on the bridge. We've added that in there to have those pilot programs within that. And then also we added the periodic bridge toll rate studies. I'm recommending that no more than 5 years go by before we actually implement another study in order to determine what's out there. So Mayor and City Council, today's recommendation is much more than adjusting the toll rates. It's about restoring the financial sustainability of the bridge system after nearly a decade without a comprehensive rate review. It's about protecting the substantial public investment the citizens of Laredo have already made in their international bridge infrastructure. And it is about establishing a governance framework that promotes financial stewardship, continuous monitoring, transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making. Staff believes this proposal represents a balanced approach that fulfills our responsibility to maintain a financially sustainable bridge system while incorporating many of the constructive recommendations received throughout the process. For those reasons, staff respectfully recommends adoption of the ordinance as presented. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have, or we can continue the conversation.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Neb, you know that we have had extensive discussions on the bridge toll increase. I think you provided this council with information about what we see in our neighboring ports of entry, how we are competitive compared to what their operations are. It sounds as if you've met with industry several times, not only at the port of entry, but also in this other venue that was a little bit more private. And that you've done your homework, right? Not only is this based on what the infrastructure needs are, but as you said here, because our ordinance demands that we protect our existing structure, that operations, maintenance, and infrastructure to our current bridge system has not been compromised by any of these proposals. And that first and foremost, we will preserve this city business as it is, and then look for expansion as we plan for the future. And I think this city has heard from the public that planning for the future is perhaps what wasn't always brought to the table, but this seems to be very much understanding that what our historic economic conditions have seen, which is increases every year in our bridge traffic, excepting a little dip because of the COVID, but very small. And what we see now, even with this, the economic conditions as they are today, we are forecasting economic growth. So because this proposal has all of that planning embedded in it in a very financially responsible way, I will move that we adopt this schedule as proposed.
Councilmember, I'm sorry, Mayor, is that approving number 33 on the final reading? Is that what we're approving?
Yes, as their, per their
That's the
recommendation.
I'll second that.
All right, there's a motion.
There's gonna be discussion.
And discussion is
Motion for
fine.
discussion. Go ahead. Who was first?
I just had a quick question.